a lot of people do just stay because they feel like it's the right thing to do, or they're scared of what life might look like on their own, or throwing the cat amongst the pigeons with the family. And it is often women, because women, they do feel like they've tried to speak to their partners about where they're at and what they want, and that they generally are asking, can we go to therapy, can we get some help? And men often don't want to engage in that process, and so there's only so long that you'll stick around if your partner's not willing to put some work in and work on the relationship. Then it just gets exhausting, and they think, well, I'm doing it all on my own anyway. It honestly was my situation, and I was the one who called the end of the relationship, because I was like, I'm running a business, I've got a young baby, I'm doing it all. I might as well just do all that on my own and be happier. So, it's a sad reality, right? Depends on how that, what the situation is and whether they've been the initiator or not to the ending of the marriage. Depends on how they handle it, right? But when you're feeling a bit blindsided and unexpected, then it can be a bit dark. And in that sense, I think a counsellor is first and foremost. Your mental health is most important, because you've got to kind of see that through the darkness to see what the future holds, and where, if there are children involved, then where does that leave them? Like, we want two healthy parents, walking this earth to look after our children. So I think, yeah, counseling first and foremost, to just like deal with the mental load. And then when ready, when you've got a little bit more kind of clarity of mind and you want to work through the process of the divorce, then engaging in a divorce coach first before a lawyer is often important, to just help with that emotional overload and figure out how you communicate differently. And you've got to work on the communication and the conflict management before you even go to lawyers, because otherwise, if you haven't done the work there, then it's only going to get worse.
If you're a good divorce coach, you're going to save your clients a lot of money.
Yeah, because we not only help them unpack what went on and what they could do better going forward, but what do they see for their future? What do they want out of a settlement? So help them get organized for that process. So doing a lot of that thinking and that decision making and exploration, so they can go to a attorney or a lawyer and have a list of questions and all their paperwork in place, so that they can really get a clearer picture of what is possible and what they can negotiate in a settlement. So yeah, doing a lot of that work is a lot cheaper with a divorce coach by your side than letting the lawyer run it from day dot, because you'll just be paying a lot more in legal fees.
Do you think that's why a lot of divorces end up getting, even if it starts like it might potentially be amicable, they get really messy in that legal process? Is it because of that they don't have that support?
They don't have that support, and they don't have that understanding. Lawyers often, as great as they are and the good work they do, they don't explain everything in layman's terms for them to understand why they have to do what they have to do. And they have a legal obligation that they have to adhere to. But often people can't understand that, and they can't get their head around why they can't get what they want because of the legalities that are involved. So having a divorce coach there to just talk them through it in layman terms, so that they have a greater understanding of that their lawyer is working for them, not against them, but this is a process and you just have to engage in the process. But we can do that in a calmer state, in a more managed state, because they've got a clearer head to make better decisions.
What's your advice for family and friends if they haven't gone through it? I mean, you're right. It's if you lost a parent to cancer, you're going to understand what that's like. If you haven't, you have no idea, right? If you haven't gone through a divorce with kids, you just have no idea. And
Yeah.
so, what's the advice for friends and family that haven't gone through it, that have a loved one that's going through it?
Just to listen. They just need somebody to listen to. Like kind of giving them too much advice and pointing them in too many directions can make it even more confusing for them, and then they just become paralyzed in the process and they can't make any decisions without running it by everybody. So with family and friends especially, you know, like don't get on the bandwagon of hating on the ex and bad mouthing them in front of the children and all that. Just be there to support and listen, I think is the most important. And then refer them to a divorce coach or a counselor or somebody that can give them that professional support.
I feel like the kind of work you do with your clients then sets them up to be better, particularly when, again, you know, you're looking at accountability and really looking at your role in the, you know, the dissolution of the marriage, that they're going to be better in their next relationship, that they're going to see some of those blind spots and kind of level up in a way.
Yeah, if they really do the work, you know, if they're willing to kind of open their eyes and look at the part they played, like, you know, a relationship generally doesn't end because of one person, you know, there's usually two people at play here that have done different things that have caused the breakdown of the relationship, you know, and it doesn't have to be infidelity, it can just be behaviors, you know. So yeah, accepting the role you played and what could I do better next time, I think. And you know, most people, I think as we get older as well, we want to do better and be better, you know. And if we get into another relationship, we want this one to work, so we want to change some of the things that we do to make it a more longevity, happier relationship, right?
One of the most common things you hear in terms of why people are getting divorced?
Most common things I hear, often it's once I've had children and they're feeling unsupported, you know, like carrying the mother load. And it's not always the mother carrying the mother load. It's, you know, whoever is the one that's at home more with the children, they feel that they're underappreciated, because they're not maybe financially, you know, putting as much into the family as the other person. They're not recognized for what they do contribute, you know, and you know, stay-at-home mums or dads, they're probably more exhausted at the end of the day than the one going off to work, right? Because kids are a lot. And so yeah, the dynamic changes in the relationship when people have kids, and if they can't grow and kind of evolve together, then that causes a big problem with staying together.
Not in this most recent relationship, but a prior relationship, I was cheated on. And I remember the beginning, obviously, the anger, the rage, all of that was like, I couldn't even believe I felt the feelings I had about it, right? But then once I got farther away from it, I could actually start to look and say, I really wasn't making our relationship a fair proof, right? Like I really wasn't leaning in, stepping up, growing, et cetera, et cetera. Not that cheating is okay, but I feel like infidelity typically is just that symptom, right? I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm a victim. He cheated on me or she cheated. And that's the reason, that's the end of the story. But I feel like that's just the result of not managing the relation, not really right. And that's hard for somebody to admit, particularly when they've been cheated on.
Yeah, and kudos to you for figuring that out and admitting it, because you can carry that anger with you and it's not going to help you. But if you can look at the role you played in it, there's a reason why she cheated, right? So, you know, we don't condone that behavior, but why did she have to go and look elsewhere? So you kind of look at what you could have done differently or better to maintain that relationship. And that's an amazing insight to have for your own needs and moving forward. And that part of anger, right? Like holding on to anger at the breakdown of any relationship is not going to serve you well. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help your children. It's not going to help your co-parenting relationship or you moving forward. So dealing with those emotions and helping let some of that go will help you move forward in that process.
I think a lot of times human beings, we want to be right so badly
Yeah.
that we just keep carrying that on and nobody really wants to be around that sort of victim, that angry, that it just continues on. It really just ends up hurting the person that keeps carrying it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And ultimately just hurting you being able to move on, you know. So a big part of coaching is to make people kind of look at what they're doing and what they could do better to get a better outcome, you know. So helping them look within and see, you know, going backwards and forwards in an argument and thinking that you're the one that's right and they're wrong, is no one's going to win that. So what can you change to get a better outcome? we've got to negotiate. There's got to be a bit of give and take. We can't win everything. So we have to kind of just manage what our expectations are around our wants and needs.
What are some things that people overlook sometimes with parenting plans? Is there anything that you would just say, hey, don't forget about, because it can get really a lot more complicated than we think.
Yeah, that's right. Like in New Zealand, we have an amazing subsidized course through our government, which is called Parenting Through Separation, and they provide a really basic, good basic parenting plan, which is a good starting point. But you tend to find as you both start to move apart and start new lives and find new partners, there's a whole lot of other things that come into play when it comes to co-parenting that you haven't necessarily thought of. So one of my big things that I've put in my parenting plan for my clients is, what does it look like if one of you repartner? At what point do the children meet that person? Do you tell the other parent first before the children? If you're going to start living together, what kind of discussions need to be had with the wider family before the children, because all of those things cause more conflict. The other partner could still be grieving the loss of the relationship, holding out hope. And then when you find out that your ex has introduced the kids to somebody new, that just causes a whole new set of conflict and drama. So just getting ahead of it by putting things like that in a parenting plan is a really good, simple way to have a plan. Like if I meet somebody, what does that look like? People are taking longer to get married. So instead of being, 20 something married, settling down, having children, they're waiting till their 30s. And my hope is that means that they're making better choices and are going to be in it for the long game. Hopefully they've done a bit of work on themselves and they've grown together as people so that they don't grow apart. Because, in our 20s, we don't really know who we are, let alone what we want out of our lives, right? Or our partners in life. Coach most of my clients around the country, around New Zealand on Zoom, but obviously I can coach people anywhere in the world. And, ultimately, it doesn't matter where you live in the world, you're still going through the same emotions and the same heartache and the same hurt and the same anger. So, if it's not me, reach out to any divorce coach anywhere around the world, because we're all trained the same and we're all there to support you and guide you so that you can come out of it, better than what you were even, right? And I think if you engage in that process and want that growth within yourself, you'll be a better person in your life in general for all relationships. Yeah.
I really enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, thank you. And we can do it. We can have another chat at some point. I'm happy to.